That's what he...
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. You know, we don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with religious people taking over the world, I mean, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist.
Coming to you from Darwin, BC and Orange Juice, Florida, this is Left of the Valley 2.0. My name is Kevin, and I worked out because zombies will eat the slow ones first.
I'm a dead man.
Yeah, I'm done. That's me. Smokers. Us smokers go out first, you know.
Joining me as usual is a team trying to work that on themselves, but their inner demons unionized. Welcome back. Hope you had a great week.
Oh, yeah. Always.
Excellent. And this show is brought to you by our patrons. You too can become a patron. Just go to patreon.com/LATV and you can help us by giving us money. And you can help, you know, Brent Lee not having to go see movies, Christian movies with his mom. You know, come on. Just only a bit so Brent Lee doesn't have to suffer through that insanity.
Yeah, it was, you know, I had to leave my brain at the door, but I got it on the way out. It's kind of like the opposite of how 3D glasses work. This is with my brain.
So, today we'll be talking to Dr. Clint Heacock in the second half of the show, and we'll be talking about the Blitz project. But first, let's do our usual chit-chat. All right. Guys, I hope you had an interesting week, as much as I did.
Oh, yeah, I had a great week. My stockbroker called me up, and he said, I got great news, and I got bad news. Is your Silicon Valley bank stock has shifted almost 90%. And I said, stop right there. I don't want to hear the bad news because like that sounds good enough as it is.
Yeah, it took 90% down.
Yeah. It did. What?
All right. And everybody hates Trump news. It turns out Trump's own defenders actually hate him too. So, you know, did you guys hear that? You know, there's a defamation suit that's happening at Fox. Fox is facing a Dominion. And it's revealing scornful behind-the-scenes opinion by Fox News figures about the former U.S. President Donald Trump, including Tucker Carlson. A text message declared, there's a text message declaring, quote, I hate him passionately.
Wow. Yeah. I think I love that the lawyers are doing it this like humiliatingly, you know, for Fox. You know, they're like putting it all out in public. No, we need more text messages out in public. We need them all, actually. Can we just get all the texts?
Well, what I think is funny is how many arguments I think everybody here has probably had at least someone over like Fox saying that everybody else is fake news while they're the real ones.
Yeah, exactly.
And then here we have like evidence after evidence coming out that they were lying. They knew they were lying. They knew they were forcing a narrative for the sake of money. And so much so to the point that the lawyers are actually, like the Dominion lawyers are actually arguing this week, can we just skip the trial? Because it's a matter of law at this point. We have all the evidence. There's no reason to do a trial over it.
Yeah, exactly.
They admitted it. I mean, it's their words. They're saying, yeah, we know it's bullshit. We're just going to go ahead and say it anyway because we just give the people what they want. You know, and people still don't listen to it. I know,
right? I just thought there was this meme going all over Facebook this week, you know, saying Fox News, we're lying to you. And Fox News listeners, no, you're not.
We're trying to tell you that we are lying to you right now. No, you're not, though.
No, you're not. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and like in the midst of like being exposed for being complete liars, here they are like trying to reinvent January 6th. Like, no, it wasn't a tourist visit. Like tourists don't poop on the walls or smash windows or walk around in a QAnon shaman outfit.
We're everywhere but Vegas, okay? Everywhere, all the other tourists, you know, anyway.
I think we should do a parody channel. We should just take Brent Lee and give him a $5 haircut and a bow tie, you know, like Tucker Carlson had back then. And he should do like history as told by Tucker Carlson. The Salem witch project, the Salem witch burning were not what you think they were. You know, they were just teaching these women how to swim. It's exactly what they were doing by dunking them back and forth.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Make
and I just want to remind everybody, if they didn't float, they were riches.
So anyway, continuing, Carlson's private text comments were revealed in court papers at virtually the same time the former president himself was hailing the Fox News host on social media. Trump said he was doing a great job in presenting excerpts of the U.S. Capitol security video on January 6th that Troy was just talking about, insurrection. So Carlson used the video to produce a false narrative of the attack. The voting machine manufacturer Dominion voting system is suing Fox News for $1.6 billion U.S. That's a lot of money. Claiming the network broadcast false claims that the company was responsible for fraud in the 2020 presidential election. A common theme emerging from the internal documents and the position is that Fox executives and hosts doubted the election claims being peddled by Trump and his allies, but aired and emphasized them anyway. Yeah, that's exactly what they did. Fox was grown concerned about the declining viewership as Trump supporters turned away from the network after it correctly called Joe Biden the presidential winner in Arizona on election night. In other words, they fed their rabid masses of lunatics exactly what they wanted to hear for the sake of the ratings. The hell with democracy. That's exactly what they did. Addressing Trump's presidential term, Carlson said, quote, "We're all pretending we've got a lot to show for it because admitting what a disaster it's been is too tough to digest. Ooh, but come on, there really isn't an upside to Trump. No shit, Sherlock."
Oh my God, you're just now fucking figuring that out. Well, now they're attacking the Capitol. It seems like this wasn't a good idea from the get. This whole thing. Jesus, what?
Yeah, I know we were calling everybody else like 4 years ago crazy for saying that electing Trump would cause something like this. Now that it's actually causing something like this, we think there might be something onto this whole Trump isn't good for America thing. It's
this is, I know we mock Tucker Carlson on a regular basis on the show, but this is why I don't like this man, because he's actually smart. He's actually smart about what he does. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly who he's playing to. So it's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. So hopefully the average American voter that, is really a Trump supporter is going to wake up, but I'm not holding my breath.
I think what really disappoints me about the whole deal is you have this false narrative put into place that was part of an organized coup d'etat event or whatever. The network jumps onto it to help push this narrative. But meanwhile, it's like you have this massive lie going through society, and where's justice coming from? The private sector suing one of the propaganda networks. Meanwhile, the government are still trying to figure out whether or not it actually happened or not.
It's absolutely amazing. Also, that for the sake of ratings, for the sake of money, these people were more than willing to see this country fall into complete disarray. For the sake of more ratings. It's like, that's mind-boggling. At some point, you think there's a line that said, you know what? No, we're not going there. But no, apparently there isn't. It's like, whatever.
It also shows how much you can just fuck with people by just like poisoning the well of like the narrative, right? Because you see, they're showing these clips now of like the FBI. They say like walking people through the facilities and everything, right? And so they're trying to say that this was set up by Antifa because, of course, they have like the FBI is, they're not actual cops, right? They're not, you can't have a Trump supporter FBI agent. It's got to be an Antifa member or whatever, like setting this thing up. And it's like, are you kidding? What made the whole thing so scary to begin with was that you couldn't tell who was a brainwashed nutbag and who wasn't, all the way up to fucking judges and everything. So, that's the scary part, because these people are pretending to just, be normal people and then are planning coups and stuff, and it's like, and then they flip the narrative when they get caught.
Yeah, even the wife of a SCOTUS was like pushing the false narratives.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
and,
big time.
And pressuring government. And it's like, I know when I was watching J6, it was, like you're thinking to yourself, there must have been a pathway paved for these people to be able to reach the Capitol so easily, get into the chambers, and sure enough, it's security was rolled back, reinforcements were denied. You find out that there was like tours being given to the Capitol, so it's like so they knew where to go,
Yeah.
But it just seems like none of that's being talked about.
And that's what's scary to me because, while people are concentrating on whether or not these people were like peaceful tourists or actually insurrectionists, which of course they were, nobody's talking about how about all these politicians that kind of help make this happen. Nobody's holding them accountable. We're wondering about the Q-man shaman. He's guilty, of course. But what about all these politicians that were just like holding their hand all the way through, trying to make this happen? It's like none of them are paying the price right now.
Unfortunately, not to pick on you, Brink, but America, in my opinion, has a bit of a tiered justice system where you have the tools will go to jail and the suits will avoid accountability.
Yeah,
and
if they can throw bodies in front of the bus, that's who's getting hit.
Yeah. It's like it's only a crime in America if you can't pay to have that crime go away, or pay to have the problem go away. Unfortunately, and politicians have the power and the money to put a lot of stuff under the carpet. Unfortunately, but
all right, moving on.
But now I'm getting conspiratorial, so move on, Kevin. Change it.
The Illuminati.
In better news. In all my sweetness news. Toblerone. You guys ever heard of the iconic chocolate bar, Toblerone?
Yeah, it's a triangle.
Yeah, have you ever noticed the famed Matterhorn mountain and the Swiss flag on the package? You ever noticed that? Right? It's a pretty famous product. And if you look at the end of the piece, on the outside there of the package, there's like a mountain, which is the...
with the bear snow cap in it?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. The makers of Toblerone are stripping the image of Switzerland's famed Matterhorn and the Swiss flag from the packaging of the milk chocolate treat as they move some of the production to Slovakia. So apparently some of the chocolate bars are not going to be made in Switzerland anymore. In June, the company announced plans to outsource production of some Toblerone chocolate layers this year to, I'm going to master this, Bratislava, the Slovak capital.
Bratislava, yeah.
Thank you. The wages and the cost of living are far lower than the wealthy, expensive Switzerland.
Oh, so they won't be using chocolate anymore. We'll be potato. No?
That's funny. That's the place in when they go to there in Euro trip, and it's like they have like 15 cents American, and that's like where they're able to like stay at this luxury hotel and like they have like 15 cents, but it pays for like all this stuff. That was in Bratislava.
Yeah, tips a guy $1, and it's like, and then the bellhop slaps his boss in the face. I buy my own hotel with this.
Yeah.
Is Slovakia? Is there that Slovakia, that country from what's that character that by Sacha Baron Cohen? Or,
oh yeah, yeah. I can't think of his name.
I forget his name. It's going to come to me eventually.
I apologize to all our Slovakian fans out there. We might have one. You never know.
Well, that's what came to mind. So the packaging changes affects the 35 and 50 gram bars that will be made in Slovakia. The larger 100 gram tablets will still be produced in Bern, the Swiss capital, the company says. So the Swissness of the package is seen as many as a standard of quality. So there's a law apparently on Swissness of the products that was adopted in 2017 that aims to protect the cachet of Swiss manufacturing. When it comes to food, 2 criteria have to be met. At least 4/5 of the raw materials that go into the product have to come from Switzerland, and the processing that gives the product its essential characteristics must be also carried out in Switzerland. So the treat that was invented 115 years ago by Swiss confectioner Theodor Tobler, with the brand name, a fusion of the family name and the Italian word Torone, which means nougat. So apparently this is why they can't really put since they're going to produce this in Slovakia, they can't really put the Swiss flag on the bar as well as the Matterhorn, because it's not going to be essentially given its characteristics like the law says.
I love that when all of your like needs are taken care of, you get to focus on shit that just doesn't even matter. You're like, we're going to make sure that on the package we don't have it. Need to be 90% plus of the production here, otherwise.
Where's that Brent?
Yeah, to Brent, this sounds completely crazy. In Canada, we're like, French language laws. It's like we got the same thing here.
Yeah, once you're medical and everybody's fed and fucking housed and everything, they're like, now what do we make laws about? And they're like, let's maybe about how much we produce things in the right place. I don't know.
In the meantime, here with it says made in China, just cross China and put Canada instead.
Yeah.
So the parent company has already run into blowback from its changes to Toblerone in the past. A move a couple of years ago to widen the gaps between the chocolate peaks Oh, I remember this. That was a big scandal. Reducing the weight of the bar because you basically had a triangle. You had a little space and another triangle, but now they've widened the space between the triangle, so you got less triangles if you wish per bar. Reducing the weight of the bar, but keeping the price the same, known as shrinkflation. Fan outrage in Britain, where the change mostly took effect. You guys remember that when that happened? That happened a few years ago.
Gives you less chocolate.
Exactly. You had less on your Toblerone bar.
How do you keep up with all the chocolate news, man? Like this is
primordial. We keep up with chocolate news for sure. I've got.
I read it from Wonka Monthly. It's like get it to my house. Jesus, what?
The magazine shows up in the mail from Wonka.
I've got dividends in the company.
That's great.
Thank you so much, guys. All right, moving on. Well, Hell is not here with us today, so we don't have a top 10, but we do have a things to make you go, do we?
Yep.
We do? Perfect.
Yep.
Where's the music?
What?
Where's the music?
All right, there it is. It's all delayed today. So I wanted to take us back like a month and a bit ago, where there was the spy balloons going through, right? So,
the balloon thing. Did you guys see this? Was it the Goodyear blimp that was floating around there with the scroll that says on the sides, "Don't shoot"?
That's good.
Okay. So today it's going to bring us back to that because it's the mysterious metal sphere washes up on Japanese beach, sparking investigation. Police and even bomb squads were sent to check out the cryptic object dubbed Godzilla's egg.
Oh, of course, only in Japan would you find a metal sphere on the beach and say, "Godzilla's egg is here! Godzilla!"
Mysterious floating spheres are having quite a month. Just weeks after the military shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon off the Carolina coast, a cryptic metal ball has washed ashore at Enshu Beach in the city of, I can't pronounce this, Hamamatsu on Japan's Pacific coast, a Tokyo correspondent from The Guardian reports.
A metal sphere that washes up on the beach. My first thought would be like a mine for World War II or something, like sea mine. That'd be my first thought.
I was thinking it'll make your fears come alive, and you gotta.
You've been watching sci-fi.
Yeah, that's weird.
The rusty orange tinted sphere dubbed Godzilla's egg
it's orange tinted on
gained worldwide interest this week after a local resident spotted it and alerted police. The elusive thing is about 5 feet in diameter and has 2 raised handles, indicating that it can be hooked onto something else.
It's one of those big bouncy ball things.
You know what? We just call up Greenpeace. They'll push it back in the ocean. Problem solved.
There we go. Godzilla can have his egg back.
Planet saved. Yep. We all in.
Call to authorities prompted police and even a bomb squad to investigate the object out of fear that it may be a stray mine.
But see, that was exactly my thought. Why would it be
Experts eventually deemed the object safe after x-rays found it was hollow. The Guardian also noticed that there was no indication the object was part of any espionage operation from nearby North Korea or China. The ball has been removed from the beach.
It's a spy camp of North Koreans. It's their technology. That's the biggest camera. The smallest camera they have is 5 foot wide.
It probably was. And they were like, wait, did you forget to put the... God damn it, Kevin. I forgot the... God damn it.
Maybe it was like a Pokeball. Someone just took Pokemon Go like way too seriously.
Somebody should have done that. Paint the top red.
Well... Maybe not Pokemon, but Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
A Godzilla Dragon Ball.
You said it was orange. It was orange, yeah.
Yeah, so, we just need 4 more. And then everybody gets a wish.
Wait a minute. Wasn't there I don't know my anime too much. Wasn't there like 7 Dragon Balls?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I thought I remembered 5, but
millions.
7.
What? That's the little ball he keeps the monsters in,
No,
that's Pokemon.
That's Pokemon. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Dragon Ball, you need to
up.
collect all the balls, and it summons the dragon, and then you get a wish.
Oh yeah.
Which usually was like bring the world back because Goku destroys it in a fight. It's
I was never allowed to watch that. Yeah,
Yeah.
too much spiritism.
None of
you know?
Jesus.
Yeah.
None of I watched into anime way more than we are. They'll
I used to watch it with my son, and it was so frustrating to watch because it's like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. 8 episodes later, the plot finally progresses.
I know, right?
Way to drag it on.
If you ever, I think I've watched like 1 or 2 episodes of this show one time to see what the fuss was all about, and it's like, my God, this entire episode was him psyching himself up to a fight. There was like nothing to it. It's like in 10 minutes, there's like one punch thrown. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know. It's like overall, it has a pretty good storyline, but you can take like 7 seasons and probably fit in like a month or 2 worth of content. It's because they really stretch out the plot to the point of where it's like nothing. It's non-progressive. Like it gets annoying to watch.
You have 27 episodes, but if you do it in real time, it was like 30 seconds. You know, each episode was half an hour, but it actually counts 1 second of real time.
I couldn't take it as soon as I just saw like a bunch of streaky lines behind him, and they were just sitting there like, and it's just like,
somebody get that man some toilet paper.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
And it always makes me laugh too because it's always the same thing. Like they fight and gets his ass kicked, but then somehow he's got a second win and becomes more powerful in the second win. And he fights and gets his ass kicked again. And there's a third win. He's even more powerful on the third win.
It's the Rocky method, you know. It's Rocky gets his ass beat every single time, and then all of a sudden, I'm okay, and then he just starts fighting.
More accolades, more like Game of Thrones, where it's like Goku is coming, and it's, instead of winter, and like the whole season will be like Goku running down like the Rainbow Bridge or the Dragon Trail or Snake Trail or whatever. And it's like 18 episodes later, he finally finishes the journey to save everybody after most of the people are dead. And then they have to wish him back with the Dragon Balls. But either way.
After most people are dead.
Although the Dragon Ball Z like figure is getting a ton of media attention on one local who regularly runs the Enshu Beach told public broadcaster that it's been sitting there for a while. It's been there for a month. I tried to push it, but it wouldn't budge. Despite all this, police have not yet identified what the object is, which has some on social media questioning why authorities are staying quiet.
Oh, there we go. Here comes a conspiracy. It's an alien sphere or something. Here we go.
Based on a video posted of the sphere on Twitter, social media users believe it's merely a ball buoy. Others have more whimsical ideas.
How come one of these anime fans hasn't just come up with the beach with their pickup truck or trailer or something like that?
Hey, that's mine.
Yeah, there it is.
Hey, just paint it as a Dragon Ball or a Pokemon thing or whatever. Just put it in front of their shop. I mean, why not?
That's what they do here.
Yeah,
it's just an 86. Like, what's that big ball that's like in the gas station or whatever? It's like 86 or something. Anyway.
Oh, we have different gas stations here.
No, 86.
86. I remember like Jurassic Park. It was like rolling down the street. It's just one of those. But
it's a weird thing they have in this 86. I think one of them is called 72. They have like numbers for gas station. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like 86.
Maybe it's 76.
76.
Is it? I don't know.
That sounds closer.
Somebody Google it. 76.
56 is definitely a number also.
like
306?
Like in the States, they have the Exxon gas station. Up here, it's called Esso. It's not called Exxon, it's called Esso.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
we're really on our way with that one.
All right. Thank you so much, Don, for that. Troy, my man. You got another fantastic forgotten myth for us by any chance?
Saint Mary of Egypt.
Ooh.
And it's yeah,
you're right.
It's 76.
Are in the middle of Lent. And does everybody here know what Lent is? Or give something up for 40 days represents Jesus's 40 days in the desert.
Builds up in your pockets, and it gets all stuck in your belly button.
No, it's Lent, not Lent.
Oh, no, Lent.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it's so it's like
And you have 40 days of weight in your belly button. It's really hard.
Exactly.
Well, you all know like Mardi Gras, right?
At that point.
So like Mardi Gras comes from like your last day of sin before Lent starts, where you got to give everything up.
Oh, that's the one. Okay, yeah, that's right. Because you like then fast for a while, so you want to party really
then,
hard. That's Mardi Gras. Yeah.
And then Lent ends like the day before Good Friday. Right?
So essentially, you've been fasting for 40 days, but then Mardi Gras happens. You just binge 40 days worth of stuff.
You binge first, right?
Yeah, you binge first, and you got 40 days of hangover.
Then exactly.
Yeah.
That way you don't want to do anything for 40 days. You know.
And then of course, like everybody gives something up or whatever. So I assume you guys didn't give anything up for Lent, but
I gave up Christianity.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
I gave up podcasting, but I broke Lent already. So it's like but 27 days in, that's a record for a lot of people. I mention Lent because that is part of the theme of this myth. This myth goes along with the whole myth Lent theme or whatever. It's about Saint Mary of Egypt. This myth is also found in the Golden Legend, which you might recall is a 13th century book collecting a whole bunch of legends about the Catholic saints. The myth of Saint Mary, though, was written in the 7th century, takes place in the 5th century, and was passed down orally in monasteries until it was originally written down by Saint Sophronius, if I said that right.
Saint Phonius? That sounds...
Sophronius. Sophronius.
I like the Sophronius. You know?
The patron saint of fake, Saint Phonius.
Saint Sophronius. Either way, so Saint Mary of Egypt, she is a patron saint of converts of chastity. She's also the protector of skin disease and fevers. Like many of the other saints, she was popular during medieval times for both good and bad reasons, or at least bad reasons by today's standard. Never mind. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit loopy today.
But I find it funny that these patron saints can't seem to have like a group of stuff they patron saint of. You're the patron saint of amputated legs and teddy bears. It makes no sense.
Very inconsistent.
Amputated limbs in general? No. Teddy bears and like snowstorms and amputated legs. It's like three completely random things.
Well, the patron saint, it's like patron saint of chastity and skin diseases. But I guess the skin disease thing is she spent a whole bunch of time in the desert, and she got really bad sunburns, and deserts are hot, so apparently that's where you got the skin and fever thing from. I don't know.
Most likely, yeah.
It's a stretch. But either way, her myth went through quite a few changes, mostly to validate misogynistic ideals of the age, but also it provides the story also provides a female version of the prodigal son parable. But I will give you a bit of a warning: parts of the story is chauvinistic, so don't hate.
No.
Yeah, hate the myth, not the myth teller. No.
Hold on.
The messenger.
You're telling me a Christian myth is chauvinistic? My dear.
Right.
Where are my pearls?
Yeah. But either, oh, good. My daughter brought me a chicken.
Like you do. Yes, we all do at some point during the day.
A chicken on the
So I now have a baby chicken on my shoulder because my daughter figured I needed this for the podcast.
Those eggs you were talking about earlier.
Trying to keep you from fouling it up,
Okay. So our story begins with another saint called Saint Zosimus of Palestine, a monk known for being a strict ascetic for his strict ascetic practices, which basically means like abstinence on steroids. Like it wasn't just like I'm giving up sex. No, anything pleasurable whatsoever.
Oh, I'm sure he was a fun guy.
Oh yeah, it's but either way, so back in those days, the more you suffered, the closer you were to Christ. So amongst his in his lifetime, he moved to a monastery near the Jordan River. And then part of a Lenten practice back then is the monks would go into the desert for the 40 days during Lent, and they would live in the desert during those 40 days. And then
there's still a few guys doing that today. You know, they go spend 40 days fasting in the desert. They end up being dead by the end. I'm like,
yeah. Nowadays, it's I'm going to give up M&Ms for Lent. Oh, good for you. Go spend 40 days in the record in the desert. Hold the saint's beer. So while he was wandering the desert, he sees what he mistakes for a creature with leathery black skin, with hardly any skin left on its bones, and completely naked. Seeing him, the creature, or technically a woman, runs away. So he chases her. She stops and says, "Abbot Zosimus, why are you chasing me? Have pity on me because I'm a woman and naked. At least lend me your cloak so I don't have to be so embarrassed." And hey, my eyes are up here. No. So he was like, "Wow, she knows my name. That's totally a miracle. She must be uber blessed. Oh, and I should probably give her my cloak now." So
just slowly remove my cloak in the moment.
So, yeah, just a few rolling eye glances while handing that cloak over. So anyway, so he she figured he seemed nice enough by giving her his cloak and all. So she gives. After giving the cloak, they prayed, and sorry, man, I'm way out of it today. I'm sorry. So he gives her the his cloak, and humbly prayed for her blessing. So with him being a priest, she started praying with him. Now Zosimus thought it was pretty amazing. She knew his name right away.
Oh, yeah,
during the prayer, she started levitating 1.5 feet up off the ground.
Very specific.
So that completely.
Hold on, let me get out my measuring stick. Hold on, I got a ruler right here. Hold on.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. The news says a foot, 18 inches off the ground, but I don't think they had inches when that was true. That could be an anachronism.
18 length units.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. They're always levitating just about the same height as a small jump too, right? They're never levitating 40 feet up. They're levitating just a tad off the ground. Right?
Really, she was just burning her feet on the sand. It was just kind of hopping back.
Lifting one leg at a time. It's levitating.
So anyway, that completely blew his mind. He first thought she was an evil spirit, but then realized that she was some sort of Jesus guru with faith far superior to his. So he was like, "I must wash your feet," which is kind of creepy, but that was a common thing back then.
It's Quentin Tarantino. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. The washing your feet thing only existed in the earlier versions. The later versions got rid of it because it showed a man being subservient to a woman.
Gross.
So yeah, you can't. And then also shows a woman being shows a woman being holier than a guy. So it's
they can't have that either.
Can't have any of that. So
talk about offensive.
Yeah. So. So they started talking, and Zosimus insisted on knowing her backstory, but she at first refused because her backstory pretty much made a Grindhouse film look like a PG-13 film. But he kept persisting, so she was like, "Okay, you asked for it." So she told the monk that he was born in Egypt into a nice Christian family, but had trouble conforming with the rules women were expected to follow. So she left home at the age of 12 and landed in Alexandria, Egypt. In the original myth, she takes up the trade of spindling flax to pay for her. So yeah, in the original myth, she would spin flax to make a career. She was a self-sufficient woman. but she also liked playing the field with men, so she would sleep around a lot. There's a bird chirping. Had a few sugar daddies who would give her gifts and give her a taste of the high life, but for the most part, she was a self-reliant woman with sexual or hypersexual tendencies, kind of like Will Chamberlain of ancient times. This little girl has a lot to say. I don't know why my daughter brought the chicken in here.
For people that can't see this, but they're doing the audio, Troy's trying really hard to do a segment. He's got a black chick on his shoulder. That's just...
Why she gotta be black? I mean, come on, you know, dude.
More specifically, I think I have chicken shit on my shoulder.
She did what she needed, and now she's yapping. Typical.
Yeah, it's a wardrobe malfunction.
Only on this show. Only on this show.
Yeah, only on this show. So either way, because the earlier version showed a self-reliant woman that was making her way, and older versions of the story, they basically took her from being a self-reliant tradeswoman to basically being a prostitute that occasionally gave people freebies. But in the most part, as for the most part, oh, that's freaking disgusting.
Oh shit!
Your hand?
Shit, man.
I am so having a talk with my daughter.
You can't just drop this on me. I'm trying to. I mean, it's a good thing you know we're not already
Here's
sick.
a chick.
And
There's crap on me.
This is professionalism in podcasting, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you what.
Do we have to do this show live?
I don't care what scathing is in a show you love or something like that. You will never see No Illusions getting pooped on by a chick on his show. I don't care what it is. You'll only see this here on LATV.
Oh boy.
Seth Andrews never has a dog pee on him on his show. It never happened.
And by the way, no, we're editing around that. Okay, we're gonna keep that and edit out some of the
we're
other
editing
stuff.
around. What are we doing? This is all gold as far as
The new star of the show. Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I'm just going to tell everybody now that wasn't real chicken shit on me. That was CGI shit. Fake news.
we don't have that kind of budget.
We got deep fakes. And,
Yeah, and Antifa CGI shit on my hand and this crap on my shoulder.
It was a Black Lives Matter chick.
So either way,
right?
so after 17 years of living a life of debauchery, sin, and sex, and everything else, she's looking for her next big adventure. So she hears some men planning on going on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem to worship the Holy Cross. So she figured, hey, let's go check that out. But when she gets on the boat, the captain's actually expecting to be paid to take her to Jerusalem. And she was like, well, I have no cash and I have no grass, but I do have. So she basically exchanged sexual favors to the captain and the other pilgrims. So it's like the captain gave her travel, the pilgrims gave her food, and she gave them a good time. So her trip to the her trip to the Holy Cross was pretty much like Debbie Does Dallas or whatever. If anybody know, okay. So when she gets to the church and she tries to go inside, she's stopped by an invisible wall. And so it's like she can't get it. She can't get into the church, and people are just walking by her like freaking mime. But it's
it's a box.
It's a level 3
in a box.
It's a level 3 force field.
Yeah. So she's outside the church and she begins weeping Yes. Oh, man. Okay.
Weeping.
Sorry. So she starts weeping and crying. Tears are flying down her face where she's like almost blinded. And then then all of a sudden the Virgin Mary appears because that's her thing. In the original version, she was praying to the Virgin Mary, but in later versions, Mary comes down and appears, and then
in the final version, she just is Mary all of a sudden. It's just a huge twist. It's just,
Mary of Egypt, Mary of Matt.
She was Mary the whole time. It's like Fight Club.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the Mary was really inside of me. So she realizes that she's not getting into the church because of might have something to do with sleeping her way on pilgrimage. So she decides that she'll give up sex. She promises to give up all of life's indulgences, give up the world altogether, remain chaste for the rest of her life. After this prayer, the visible wall or force field was no longer preventing her from entry, and she went inside to the church, prayed the Holy Cross.
She found the right frequency.
Some guy felt sorry for her, gave her 3 coins in which she bought 3 loaves of bread with. and then all of a sudden a voice from heaven came to her and said, "Go to the other side of the Jordan River and there you'll be safe." So off she went with her 3 loaves of bread and then these 3 loaves of bread were apparently sustained her for 17 years in the desert.
Oh, talk about stale bread. Oh,
jeez. Yeah. It's the same bread that Jesus used.
Pretty much. For and then she also ate a few herbs or whatever. That was the first 17 years. And then also during the first 17 years, her clothes rotted off of her. She was tempted with sin to turn back to her holy life, blah, blah, blah. It's tortured by the burning sun and hunger, but was still able to maintain her faith and pray away the desire for basic necessities. After this, she achieved a level of transcendence and lived in the desert for a total of 46 years before meeting Saint Zosimus, which is the guy I talked about before.
46 years. So she was an adult before she gave up her life of fun to become miserable like every good Christian. And then she went into the desert for 46 years. I was like, what was she, like 70 years old in there by the time she...
Yeah, closer to the 80s or 90s. I meant to do the math and I forgot, but it's she was like 17 in Egypt. So 17 in Egypt plus the 12 plus 46.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's getting pretty old at this point. But either way, the 46 years though, just like a fallback, 40 Lent, even though everybody says is 40 days, the Lent season is actually 46 days because you get Sundays off. So it's so like I said, like the whole story is kind of like a metaphor for Lent, kind of, sort of. But either way, so at this point, she's telling her story. She reveals her transcendence by glowing with the Holy Spirit, and then she does like this does this thing like the transfiguration of Christ on the mountaintop.
Just like in the Twilight movie, right?
Yeah. Well, if you're not familiar with the transfiguration of Jesus, it's like this one story that got inserted into the Gospels where Jesus, his face changes to Moses and to Messiah, and
he goes radioactive and he glows.
Yeah, it's like he basically does like a face shift type thing. But
it's like that one scene in Indiana Jones 4 where the 4 aliens turn into just the one, and then the one turns back into the 4. And anyway, it's the whole thing.
No, I'm thinking like more like that Michael Jackson soul "Am I Black or White" video. Oh no,
yeah,
I think
black
I got
and
that
white.
wrong.
Yeah, you're right. That's yeah, you got it.
Yeah, but anyway,
all right, let's wrap it up, Troy.
Oh shit,
you got
we kind of got sidetracked too much.
1 minute.
So either way, okay, so I'm going to try to wrap this up. So she shows herself to be super holy. He's like worshiping her, and she says, "Well, you know what? Come back a year from now. so that I can and give me communion for the first time after breaking Lent. So then he leaves in the monastery, comes back or whatever, and then it's and then he's on one side of the Jordan, she's on the other side, and she walks over the Jordan River to get to him, which I can never quite understand. How do you walk on water on a river without being swept away? But
that's a good point.
It's kind of like she got to walk with the current or against the current. Hold on, I'll be there.
Yeah, just
like walking
running
on the
sideways across the river, trying to keep up.
It's kind of like those things at the airport, you know.
Yeah, it's like an escalator. You're going upstairs, but you're climbing the escalator down. You know, like when you're like 3 and do that as a kid.
I'll be right there.
Yeah, exactly.
No, okay. So she gets over there. He gives her communion. There's a few other funky miracle things that happen, but either way. But after she gets communion from him, she asks him to come back again a year later. Then she just like hovers over the River Jordan again, I guess. And then he comes back again looking for her, but can't find her. So he goes looking for her, and then he finds her ready to be buried in the desert with a note beside her. And at which point it's like, oh, good, a note, because I completely forgot to ask her what her name was. So it's the note's like, here lies poor Mary. Please bury me and pray for me, a poor sinner. So it's like,
well, she wrote this before lying down and dying. Is like, okay, please bury me. I put that on my chest. All right.
My name's Mary, by the way. It's,
yeah. At which point I'm wondering, how does a naked woman in the desert get a pen and paper and ink to write a note? But it's a miracle, folks.
She wasted her last lit wish to the genie.
Yeah. But he's like, yeah, so of course I'll marry you. And then at which point it's like, for a prophet, you should have told me to bring a shovel. So it's like, how am I going to bury her? Well, along comes this lion, and so like he says to the lion, okay, a cookie, thank you. my daughter just brought me in a cookie. Apparently, don't disturb me during podcasting.
You need to get one of these on-air signs like I have there.
I think so. But yeah, he turns to the lion and says like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just lying around. Do you mind helping me bury this person? So the lion comes over, digs up Mary or whatever, and then they bury her, and then the lion just strolls off. He goes back to his monastery and keeps on sharing the story.
The lion
and that,
No, the lion wouldn't eat that or the corpse, because lions are well known to be like undertakers on the side, right? They all know that. I mean,
doing favors.
Well, I don't know. It's like I'm thinking, like in real life, if a lion did do that, it's probably thinking like, "I'm coming back later for supper."
God damn it!
We got some Mary jerky happening over there. It's like the skin's kind of burnt and tanned a lot, but it's
yeah, we all know lions do that all day in the savannah. When they're not sleeping or eating or chasing other animals away, they just bury them for the fun of it.
Yeah,
it's a hobby.
That's what they do. Yeah.
But either way, yeah. So yeah, like I said, so he goes back to the monastery, and then it's like an oral legend for 100 years or two until it gets written down or whatever. But it's I thought it was like a pretty fun myth.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, it's crazy as usual. Brett Lee, my friend, you got another brilliant moment for us?
I do, man. I got a quick one. Yeah, no, it's all right. But so okay, real quick before I do this, I want to make sure that I make something pretty clear here. So there's this story about this guy in Africa. And I want to make it real clear, real quick. The reason that things happen seem so and weird across because it is objectively funny. This story's about to be objectively funny. But it's because everybody's so desperate over there that it's, we always look at Islam as being the craziest. But it's just because they're all desperate. Okay, so keep that in mind.
We all know that religion actually preys on people at their most vulnerable. It's quite rare that you find somebody at the height of their happiness and you found fame and fortune and all of a sudden found God. It's quite rare. It's usually when they're down in the miserable dump that is, all of a sudden I found Jesus.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're going to have, when you're like starving to death, you're probably going to be more religious and you're going to start killing people because you're like, hey, man, we're starving because of that guy. He fucking broke the God's law. And now we're, so you have a lot of that going on. So just want to make that clear real quick. So, but this is objectively funny. I mean, come on. But it's self-proclaimed Jesus Christ runs to police station as locals allegedly plan to crucify him.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, live by the lie, die by the lie. Or was that a sword?
So self-proclaimed Jesus Christ? So you're saying one guy who calls himself Jesus Christ?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So
and then his followers are like, "Oh, you're Jesus? Oh, well, Easter's coming. Let's crucify you and see if you come back."
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like he's like, wait a minute.
Hold on. No. What? No.
No.
Like,
No,
well,
I meant
come back to
Jesus.
life
I was Jesus, and you should give me your stuff. Not Jesus, where I should actually do miracles and crap.
Yeah. Because they're like, he can just come back to life and then fly off into the sky if he's actually Jesus. And he's like, wait, hold on. Different kind of Jesus. Different sort of.
Jesus.
Jesus, yeah.
Jesus. I'm a carpenter, but I'm from Mexico.
Exactly. So a Kenyan man who is claimed over the years to be Jesus has reportedly lodged an official complaint with the police saying his life is under threat after alleged plans by some locals to crucify him on Good Friday. Why they call it Good Friday, I don't know.
I never got that one either. There was nothing good about that Friday, that's for sure.
No. Yeah, exactly. It's like it's torture murder day.
They should call it Bad Friday.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Tortured and murdered and crucified for our sins, and that's a good thing.
Because he was such a bad guy, right?
Good thing.
Good.
Yeah.
No, because he's a good guy. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you just say it over and over again until it sounds right.
Right. That's how we do
And if it never sounds right, you're going to hell, so it doesn't matter. So
something like the Bible, they call it the good book. There's nothing good about that book at all.
Exactly. Right. Now the guy's name is Elihu Samayu. Samayu. Yeah, Elihu Samayu. It's kind of fun to say, actually. That's why I wanted to include it.
Elihu Samayu.
Elihu Samayu. Yeah. And that's it. That's what happened. So
what you doing? Elihu Samayu.
Elihu Samayu. What a wonderful phrase. It means for the rest of your days, or until Good Friday when they crucify your ass.
Yeah.
Elihu Samayu.
So as far as I know, he's okay. This story was actually kind of hard to find. The link that I'd seen a bunch of people like spreading around, I thought it was a fake story at first because I kept clicking the links and they were all broken. And then others were just blogs. But I did finally find like an actual website. Still not a very reliable one. So I don't know. It's Pulse.
No, probably not.
There are so many wacky stories that come out of Christian Africa. No matter how crazy it is, at this point, anything's possible.
But that's the thing, right? I mean, the religion itself is so nutbar that even a story that just like, no, this can't possibly be true, probably has a kernel of truth in it because it's like, it's Christianity, man. It gets there. It really does. And you feel, and it's funny because I did missionary work like over in very poor areas, like in Jamaica and stuff. And, I used to use as like an argument for Christianity being true is like that, hey, these people like accept the message and are so happy to hear it and stuff, But yeah, you go to a bunch of desperate people and be like, hey, you guys need some fucking magic? We got some magic for you guys, and they're just like, yeah, fuck yeah, some magic. Let's do this. Yeah, of course. Because they're fucking desperate as shit. They don't have, they're living in cardboard boxes, most of them. Of course, they're like, gonna accept whatever, because they're desperate, they're scared. Man. So this guy essentially, how do we know? Does the article say how long this guy's been?
It's been like the past couple of years, so he's been doing this for a while.
Oh, so he's already done the turning the water into wine thing, walking on water thing. This is all like standard practice.
Just said Jesus, So
yeah, it's just maybe he's got stage fright. I mean, it's a big crowd, right? This whole resurrection thing is, he gets
right?
excited to it.
Maybe he was like he was just saying, "Take this cup from me," and was serious about it. Like, no, seriously, no, I'm not taking it. You take the cup. I don't want it. I'm not doing it.
I don't want it.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, pulling off the miracle of feeding the masses. First, like, everybody wait right here, and then all of a sudden you hear tires screeching. He's off to the grocery store.
Yeah. It's that part of what is it, Pirates of the Caribbean, where he's all tied up with the thing. You're going to sacrifice him. Like, 1 second. And
Hold on.
running away.
That's great. Oh, thank you so much, Bradley. Appreciate that. All right, let's take a quick pause. And when we come back, we'll be talking with Dr. Clint Heacock of the Mindshift podcast, and we'll be talking about the Project Blitz. That's going to be fun, so stay with us. All right, our returning champion is Dr. Clint Heacock. He is the host of the Mindshift podcast. He's a snappy dresser and a snazzy dancer. Clint, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thanks very much. It's been way too long, guys. I can't believe it's been more than a year since you were on before.
Oh, well, you know what? Time just
hear the cheers now. The crowd of thousands.
Well, absolutely. We certainly spent. And I believe
we're all in the background somewhere.
At least my old father used to say, life is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it spins.
That's pretty solid, actually.
That's a pretty apt analogy.
Yeah, that's where.
Clint, if you'd be so kind, maybe for people that missed you last time, maybe you'd be so kind to give us a quick bio as to who Dr. Clint Heacock is.
Okay, well, actually, it's Heacock. It's one of them funny English names. But yeah, I've been living over here in the UK. I live in North Wales, Northwest England right now. I've been here about almost 17 and a half years. I've just gotten my British citizenship last year, so that was a huge sort of milestone. So I'm an official expat. I'm never going back to America. They can have it, love it or leave it. I say leave it. See you later, man. But yeah, I host the Mindshift podcast, as you say.
Yes, you have healthcare now.
Yeah, and people ask me all the time, like, why the hell would you want to leave America? And I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, have you seen, we've had, just since January started, we've had over 71 mass shootings. There's been more mass shootings than there's been days in 2023.
Yeah,
we just don't have that in Britain. We just don't have it.
No.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, no. I think it's well over 80 now, because last week it was like 86 or something like that. But it's more than one a day.
Last time I looked, it's more than one a day.
We still have two of our members of the show, Brent Lee and Heather. That's Heather. Jeez, Helen. That's not here today. They're living in Florida. We're trying to encourage them to come to Canada or move to England or something. We'll get them there.
My sister, She actually married a Canadian a couple of years ago, and she's now moved up to Canada. He was living in the States, but I'm like applauding that. That's a great move, man. I mean, you want to get out of there, become an expat. You're never going back to the States.
I'm in Florida too. It sucks.
I know. Oh, you got DeSantis then.
Yeah, if I put on lipstick, like I get tackled by 7 cops.
He lives in America.
He's dressing drag. He's dressing drag. Get him. Get him.
Gets pulled over by the cops. It's like, illegal weapon, okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's
okay.
Fine. AR-15
Woke with 2 penguins as dads.
Heather has 2 mommies. No, he's going to prison.
It's true. The lipstick, man. The lipstick got him. It got him.
Yeah. It's true.
So today I wanted to bring Dr. Heacock to talk about Project Blitz. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring you to talk about this is, well, first of all, you've done a lot of studying of religious studies and all that stuff. You're very well versed in all that. But also I think it's a subject that people don't talk enough about. And it explains to me, it's linked directly to what a lot of is happening politically anyway, in the United States especially. So maybe you'd be so kind to give us a bit of a history lesson here as to what Project Blitz was.
Well, I think maybe the bigger picture is how it came to be found out. That's really the story, because if you know anything about the storyline of Project Blitz, I've got a good friend of mine, he's named Fred Clarkson, and as soon as you type in Project Blitz on Google, you'll find Fred Clarkson. Now he's an associate at the Political Research Associate. That's what it is. He's a journalist, PRA, and he writes for the Public Eye Journal and Religion Dispatches and things. He's the one that actually broke the story back in 2000. I think it was 2018 on Project Blitz. Now the thing is, this was a top secret Christian right agenda, and Fred broke the story on it, and then it got picked up by like USA Today, New York Times, Jerusalem Times. A lot of different media outlets picked up on the story. blew it wide open, and the Project Blitz guys were, shitting themselves basically because their secret agenda had been exposed by Fred Clarkson. And that's really the story. In the last couple of years, they've gone underground. And so what's weird about the whole thing is how it came to light. And then to me, that's the real story, because what Fred's argument is that Project Blitz has been exposed to the sunlight, and he says sunlight is the best disinfectant. This is the truth. It's a good thing that we found this stuff out so that we knew what their agenda was.
Wow. It sounds like a very interesting story for him to do some really prime journalism into the issue. Yeah. So how did this all happen? How did he stumble upon this?
Well, I think he got alerted to it. He was doing some investigation on some of the agenda of the Christian right. I mean, he's been writing on the Christian right, and maybe that's the real backstory, is that if you go back, Fred Clarkson was one of the first people to start writing about something that's called dominion theology back in probably the 1980s. And that's really one of the prime drivers behind Project Blitz. What I'm sure we can get into the finer details of it, but what it is dominion theology is something that goes all the way back to a guy named R.J. Rushdoony, and he founded this institution called the Christian Reconstructionism, and so it's a movement really back in the 60s and 1970s, and he was a prolific writer, and he was the first one to articulate this idea of Christians taking dominion in a political sense. And back in the late 1970s and early 80s, the Christian right, when they really started to be formed right around the time of Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan, that was when they jumped on a lot of Rushdoony's writings and said, this gives us a template to take dominion politically. And so really Project Blitz can be seen in the larger context of it's Christian nationalism, it's dominion theology, kind of all rolled into one. And it's a template. It's a bill template that they've sent out to Christian legislators across America and all 50 states to try and pass a whole bunch of different bills. And that's where it gets its name. It's like a blitz. We're just going to send so many bills out that they're going to blitz the legislature. Some of them will get shot down, but some of them will get through. It's just like in American football. If you're a defensive player, you blitz the quarterback. If you do it over and over and over, the offense can pick up a few, defensive players, but some are going to get through. And that's the playbook behind what Project Blitz is. It's a template for the Christian right legislators.
It's like Christian Hydra, right? It's like
yeah.
So if I use like a
another two grow,
yeah, exactly.
If I use like a local example here in the Valley, within the last 10 years, our local school board has had some very heavy Christian fundamentalists on it.
Yeah.
And when it came time for local elections, we would have like Christian lobbies from like out-of-town lobbies come in and do public attacks on school board members that the lobby wasn't pushing. So it's like they would have their Christian friendly candidate that they'd be pushing, but then they would be doing like these personal attacks against the competition. And the whole idea was to basically load up the local school board with people that were prominent with their messaging. And then like what ended up happening in Chilliwack, though, the public just got so fed up with all the bogus narratives and hate speech, or whatever, that all the candidates that were being pushed by this lobby are now off the school board. But now you have the same people still. You have these same people showing up at school board meetings, accusing the school board of having like pornography in the libraries and attacking trans kids. And it just seems like they lost their battle, but they're still fighting to try to get power at the local level and work their way up to there. Or from there, like kind of like the Daughters of Dixie in the States in the early 20th century.
Yeah, or just Florida now. Just
No, I think you get a very good point here, and we've been warning people on the show for years now, and it's exactly what I've been saying for a long time. And you from the UK, Clint, you'll probably be able to collaborate what I'm saying here. As Project Blitz seems to me, anyway, you might be able to confirm that. It seems to be they really started this project and this effort after Roe versus Wade. in the Supreme Court was decided. And then, they're pushing, essentially, they realize that you can't sell Christianity as a whole, especially to the top dog, the president or anything like that. But they realize if you control all the lower echelons, the school boards, the small state governments and all that stuff, you can push that agenda. And what's happening right now in Canada is Canada has a tendency to be one step behind the U.S. politically anyway, in many aspects. So the conservatives here in Canada are taking their cues from what's been going on in the U.S. and what's been successful in the U.S. This is why it ties into Troy's story that the Christians are making this move up here now in Canada as well. They're trying to go for the small plaque, the school boards and all that shit. Is that really a good way to describe it?
There's a couple things. I mean, Project Blitz itself, what Fred Clarkson was uncovering, it wasn't launched until 2015 by this guy. His name was Randy Forbes, and he was a former representative out of Virginia, and he started it. But he started also the Congressional Prayer Caucus Foundation, as well as the Congressional Prayer Caucus. So he was doing all these prayer caucuses for years before, trying to get a grassroots movement started before he launched Project Blitz. And this is one thing about the Christian right in the States is they play the long game. Mm-hmm. They've been playing this for a very, very long time. So you mentioned Roe versus Wade. Their strategy to overturn Roe versus Wade, that goes back probably to the late 70s, early 1980s. So they saw abortion as a mobilization strategy to get people out and get them to vote in churches. There was this huge base of evangelicals sitting there, and they didn't know how to motivate them to get involved politically. And if you talk to Frank Schaeffer, I don't know if you know Frank Schaeffer at all, but he's Francis Schaeffer's son. And Francis Schaeffer was a massive, massive sort of star in the evangelical world back in the 70s and 80s. I used to read his books when I was in seminary, and him and Frank did a whole film series called Whatever Happened to the Human Race back in the 70s. And they were trying to get people to get motivated about abortion. And that was part of what led into the early formation of the Christian right, if you know that story at all. But there's another thing. We were talking about dominion theology. There's another sort of stream of dominion theology, which is called Seven Mountains Mandate dominion theology. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but no. It used to be more on the charismatic side. And this came out of like Youth with a Mission, Campus Crusade for Christ, that kind of, it wasn't necessarily affiliated with Rushdoony and his Christian Reconstruction as a model. But the thing about Seven Mountains Mandate is they mandate that Christians should take charge of 7 cultural mountains, things like religion, education, business, government, those kind of things, media, arts, and entertainment. And so I think what you were talking about, Troy, we're seeing those sort of grassroots thing with Christians trying to take control of their local school boards, Christians being school teachers, Christians being principals, administrators. They're adopting this Seven Mountains Mandate sort of strategy. It's becoming more and more of a common parlance among evangelicals. They'll just say, "Oh, we need to take control of these 7 mountains of culture," and so that's it. It's a grassroots type thing.
Is that the family? that whole family thing?
Not necessarily. The family is definitely a dominionist organization. They go back to, like, if you've seen that series on Netflix, the early 1930s. They came out of my hometown, Seattle, Washington. Abraham Buriti. But what's happened now is you're seeing a blend of all these sort of streams coming together. Because I saw, for example, Tony Perkins. He's the head of the Family Research Council, which is part of James Dobson's Focus on the Family. It's kind of the political arm of the Focus on the Family network. And people from that organization, they're a very fundamentalist sort of. They're not charismatic at all, but they're using Seven Mountains Mandate language when they go out to churches to sort of train pastors to get the vote out, to get their people mobilized in political campaigns. So what we're seeing is they're just using that language more and more across just mainstream evangelicalism.
So all the divider lines that they put up that are just arbitrary lines go right out the fucking window when they're trying to get power.
Well, that's it. And it's a good strategy if you're looking at it from just purely a strategic point of view, because a lot of the strategy used to be, hey, we've got to take high political office. This was their thing. Okay, we got to get presidents who are Christians. We've got to get, and that's what they did with Trump. It wasn't a Christian, but he was able to appoint enough judges and enough Supreme Court judges whereby they could then get the legislation introduced that they knew it was going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, at which point it did get overturned. And that was their strategy for decades and decades. But now they're saying what we need is a grassroots movement. We need these prayer caucuses. We'll take little Bible study groups. We'll take prayer groups. We'll take anybody, 5, 10, 15 people. We'll form a little group. and we'll get them mobilized in their local area. And if you want to run for your school board, if you want to, start up a Christian business, if you're a Christian plumber, a Christian electrician, whatever it might be, that's your little mountain. That's your cultural mountain. So from a strategic point of view, it actually makes a lot of sense. It's a lot more of a grassroots thing.
Wow. Would you say that the shift from, because it seems like they've shifted a lot. I mean, they still use the rhetoric here and there, but like it seems like they've shifted from the Roe v. Wade thing to just like hating trans people. Like that seems to be the shift that is that because they like got it all the way up and then flipped it? And they're like, shit, all the people with the signs are like, well, we got it. And they just threw their signs down and went home. And they were like, oh shit, we got to get them mad about something.
Keep the momentum going.
Yeah, to me, it certainly seems. I was going to say, like, to me, it certainly seems like as soon as Roe versus Wade was won, that's when all the anti-trans stuff started flooding the internet all of a sudden. It just seemed like too much of a coincidence to just not realize that it wasn't part of like pushing narratives onto people to keep them triggered. Yeah. But
so it was another step, essentially, right? They've won that battle, so now let's move on to the next battle.
Moving on,
yeah. And I think if you look at Project Blitz, the original playbook, it had three sort of categories or three sort of levels. And basically what it was, the strategy behind Project Blitz was on the first level was just to introduce bills that would easily sort of pass. So the first level were things like, we just need to put up "In God We Trust" in public spaces, on state license plates, on police cars, in public schools, very inoffensive sort of things. They had those kind of levels of bills. Then they got to a second level bill, and it was more like, well, we're going to put up the 10 Commandments in courthouses. They knew that would be a little bit more controversial. But then when it got up to the third level, then you started seeing things like, we need to protect heterosexual marriage. We need to protect heterosexual adoption. And then you start to see, like you said, that's where the anti-LGBTQ rhetoric starts coming in. Once they get enough bills passed, then they'll start upping their game, as it were. So Roe versus Wade was a short-term strategy. They've always had an anti-homosexual agenda as well. It's just now they're getting more bold about it. I think, too, though, they got an unexpected backlash from Roe versus Wade because, I mean, we know, according to the polls, the majority of Americans did not want it overturned, and yet they were able to get it done. That's how fucked up it is. They were able to get it done again. So it's an anti-democratic thing that they use democratic means to get it done. That shows how clever they are in their strategies.
Yeah, because Roe v. Wade was like meeting in the middle. Like everybody acts like it wasn't, but Roe v. Wade was kind of like us, like going, okay, fine, right here, and everybody kind of just being like, all right, I guess right there. It's like where, because like it's an arbitrary line, we can draw it anywhere, but like we kind of like, oh, okay, well, however, I mean, I can't remember how many months it was. It was like 3 months or something like that. You have to be able to get an abortion, and like that was the agreement. And they're like, no, fuck that agreement. Inception, that or the conception is like when they fucking
Yeah, Roe v. Wade was basically when the Supreme Court decided arbitrarily to create trimesters for women's pregnancy, and so to value the rights of the woman versus the right of the states to protect their citizen. And this is where the first trimester is pretty much all the woman's decision, and the third trimester is a lot of the state's decision on that point. So,
third trimester. That's it. Yeah.
Well, what I find interesting about what you're saying there is the fact that they're pushing this agenda, the Christian dominionism is being pushed, despite the fact that we all know very well right now at this point that Christianity itself is essentially dying. Right, the numbers are going less and less every year. Secularity and non-belief is a growing thing, even in the U.S.
Yeah.
So don't these people realize they're fighting a losing battle, essentially?
Yeah, but that's the point. I think that is the whole point. Is what's animating them is they can see the number. They can read the polls just as well as you or I can do. They can see that they're declining in numbers. So they're like, okay, shit, we've got to get this stuff through while we still have a majority. And they were desperate to get it done while Trump was president. And they were able to win on that, like you said, the Roe versus Wade thing, as well as he appointed, I don't know how many, over 150, maybe more judges on all kinds of different lower level benches as well. It wasn't just the 3 on the Supreme Court. So this is a massive long-term legacy that they had this was all part of their strategy. So they know they're declining in numbers, but they're thinking, well, this is our last big roll of the dice. We have to get this done now,
Do you think the attrition also, like the attrition Christianity also feeds into some of the narratives? Because like And the more extreme religions, they will preach about like a mythical war of good and evil, how we're at in the end times, how people be lured away from the church by Satan. And, so it's like, even when they are losing their numbers, they can say, see, prophecy fulfilled. It's now's the time to dig in and really get the Lord's work done. Because a lot of these bigots, it seems like it's not like they're bad people. They're just doing bad things, and they think they're being good while doing it. But
well, and then they're being exposed to a lot of toxic theology. Because going back to Rushdoony, he was the founder of Christian Reconstructionism. This is part of where the Christian homeschooling movement comes from, as well as the Christian day school. And he was a massive. If it wasn't for Rushdoony, we wouldn't have Christian homeschooling like we have it now in America, because he was a tireless advocate. He would go state to state to state, and he was an expert witness in many court cases arguing for the rights of homeschooling parents back in the 70s and early 80s, when the movement was just starting to get off the ground. And so we wouldn't have homeschooling. Now, why was Rushdoony so passionate about homeschooling? It was because in his model, Christians would take dominion. It would be a long-term generational strategy. It wasn't going to be like a one-off where we just take power and that's it, we're in charge, like The Handmaid's Tale. It was a case of, it might take 1,000 years, but with enough generations of homeschooled kids, Christian educated kids, we would take dominion. Ultimately, that was the strategy. And so if you look, a lot of these guys, they'll say, well, we're not in the churches. It's not in the numbers game. It's the long-term strategy. We're in it for the long haul. We've got to get more homeschool families. We've got to get more Christian schools. We've got to get more kids in Christian education. And that's how we're going to win. We're going to train up these generations.
But it seems
that's funny, because I was homeschooled. I'm born in the 80s, right? So I was right in that.
So you were right in the middle of that.
Yeah, I was technically illegal when I was being homeschooled, right?
Exactly.
So like it was this big, and they
you can thank Rushdoony for that.
Oh god damn it! But it's kind of funny what he's, because his shit failed, because like we were in a homeschool group, right? And it was very fundamentalist homeschool group. Everyone I know is like an atheist now, and not just a regular atheist, a pissed off atheist.
Angry atheist.
Because like we were lied to our whole fucking lives,
Yeah, so, I came out of a small Christian school movement in the Seattle area, so I wasn't homeschooled, but I was right in there with you in the late 70s, early 80s. I went to Christian high school, but I never heard of Rushdoony. I never heard of dominion theology. It wasn't until I started studying all this stuff years ago that I'm like, who the hell is this guy? What's this all about? And I actually found, my mom sent me some stuff, some curriculum from when I was in probably year 6 or 7. And I'm reading this stuff going, what the hell? I mean, this is straight out of, dominion theology. I didn't know I was being exposed to that stuff when I was, 9, 10, 11 years old.
Right. I got a couple books still. Like I said, I got my old science book, and it's all like, here's why science is stupid. Science book. What the
creation
fuck?
Science.
Creation science.
The earth is only 6,000 years old. They're lying to you. It's a conspiracy theory. They don't want you to know the truth, Brentley.
It's Jesus true, signed the Constitution, man. He was there. He signed it. He's got his signature there. That's wild.
To bounce off on what Bradley was saying there, it seems to me, I can understand them wanting to take over what is essentially the most powerful nation in the world right now, the superpower of the United States. I get that, but it seems so short-sighted considering that we live in a global economy. To have Christian theology taught without the lessons of science and normal teaching in a regular school would produce a student that is inadequate on the global stage. So it seems very short-sighted for these Christians to do this. So, and like I said previously, we also said that, we know the faith is dying. So is this just a strategy of scorched earth on their part? Or is there actual, delusional?
Well, a lot of them think it's true. Someone just posted up on Facebook. I've got a closed Facebook group for our Patreon supporters, and someone posted up their parents, which are still fundamentalists. They went and visited the Creation Museum the other day. I don't know where it is. It's in Kentucky, I believe, somewhere. Yeah. It's Ken Ham. He's part of that, the Ark Encounter and all the rest of it. Speaking of Ken Ham, I've heard he's his next plan, he's going to build a life-size Tower of Babel. Have you heard about that? Next to the Ark Encounter. Yeah.
Why would he do that?
No, why wouldn't he? That's the question.
But I thought the Babel Tower is bad, right? That's a bad thing. Like, that's all the people coming together, and then God was like, "No, you guys got to hate each other, and then have different religions." And
he must, he must obviously think that. Well, the people of Kentucky are incredibly naive, because there's a lot of people in Kentucky that know already of the scamming that he pulled on their state to build the ark.
He did,
right?
yeah.
Which is not even close to being a real.
Yeah, it's been a failure, really.
Yes. Right. And now you
Financially,
Kentucky is just going to fork again the money to build to give him tax breaks to build a tower.
Yeah, but it's the Ark Encounter, the Creation Museum, the Tower of Babel project. They're all examples, I think, of what happens in this fundamentalist world. Ken Ham believes that the Ark obviously was literal, was real. He built a life-size replica of it. And if you go, I've never been to it, but I've seen plenty of things on YouTube about it, people that have gone through it. And it's all full of, like, you know, the gospel message. If you don't believe the story of the flood, you won't believe the story of Jesus dying on the cross for your sins and all the rest of it. You know, and so the Tower of Babel project is all about, it's a sociological project. He's explaining where all the different languages and all the different races of the earth came from, because he believes that the Genesis story is literally true. That's what happened. God confused the languages. God confused the races. So he's using it like as an object lesson to say, this is where this explains all of our human, you know, differences. Basically, it's a crazy project, but that's where they're coming from. They believe it's true. They believe the Bible. They read it as literally true. So they believe the earth is literally somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 years old. And they're willing to die on that altar. I mean, it's what it is.
Oh, based on the genealogy parts, so you're just like, oh, this is like, who put this in here? You know, I always wondered that. Like, why? Who's just putting the list of names? Like, somebody's going to find. Well, they do have the list of names, so it must be true. I mean, look at the names are right here.
Yeah, that's how they figured it out. They just added up all the genealogies, and well, it's about 6,000 years old. So you know,
give them 900 years each. You know, because people live to 900 years.
Sure. That shows their commitment, you know, how committed they are to it. I mean, they'll spend millions, billions potentially on building a fucking ark and a Tower of Babel.
Right. And that's just going to freak everybody. Like, I don't know if you like, well, I watch a lot of fundamentalist stuff, and they're freaked out by anything Babel and Baal. They they connect everything to the Tower of Babel and Baal. So I don't, they're going to get mad at him for this. So I don't know. It's kind of a dumb idea on his part.
I don't know. Well, it can't be any worse than the Ark project. That's a flop. It's a failure. Oh, you know, and what's ironic about it, it's so funny when you look at it objectively. They had to use modern equipment. They had to use modern cranes. They had to use modern tools, modern technology to build the thing in the time that they did. And to me, that just shows that Noah couldn't have done it. You know what I mean? An Iron Age man could not have built a boat that large with primitive tools, because you needed cranes, you needed modern equipment, as Ken Ham found out, to build the damn thing the way it should be built.
Well, no, also like Bill Nye pointed out during his debate with Ken Ham too. It was like the ark was simply too big to be able to float. Like a boat that size would collapse under its own stress.
Yeah. So, they couldn't have worked, and it couldn't have fit all the animals in the world. It couldn't have fit all the food for all the animals. I mean, the list is endless, but it just shows again their commitment. I think, you know, they're fighting this, what they see as a final battle, you know. And part of it is some of the theology is they believe it's called a post-millennial view, which is they believe they have to set up a kingdom, Christ's kingdom on earth, before he'll return. So that's part of the motivation for a lot of these people, is they're not saying, well, Jesus could come like as a thief in the night and rapture all the Christians out. No, we first have to set up his kingdom on earth. That's what we have to do. So that's why they're so desperate to take dominion, is because, you know, that's their motivation. That's their driver.
I always wondered about that, because like the thing is, like, they always say like narrow is the road, right? Narrow is the road. Yeah. Like everybody, wide is the road that leads to destruction. But yet they're always trying to be like, you know, we control everything. And I'm like, is it the narrow road or not? Are you guys like supposed to like be like off to the side of culture while culture is happening and everything? Or are you supposed to be in control of the culture? Because you can't have it both ways. You can't be on the narrow road and controlling everything at the same time. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but it does make sense if your goal is to try to construct some sort of a theocracy. And that's what's funny about going back to Project Blitz. Their latest handbook, which came out 2020, 2021, had actually, they added more categories. I was mentioning they had 3 categories. They've actually added 5. They've added a couple more bills to it. But what they say in the sort of preamble to the new version is they say, we're being accused that we're trying to set up a theocracy. That's not the case. No. We're not trying to set up a theocracy. But it's absolute bullshit, because if you go back and look at what they're trying to do, they're saying basically Christians need to be in charge. And if Christians were in charge, then the world would be a righteous place. But I've done a case study on some of these theocracies, theocratic kingdoms. You look at like Calvin's Geneva, for example, in the 16th century in Switzerland. That was one of the most oppressive, dark places to live in the world. And that's what happens when Christians get in charge. It becomes a Handmaid's Tale type situation. It's not what we want. It's not what anybody wants. I don't even think they would want it if they were actually able to pull it off.
No, it's that says, when the last time Christianity was in charge, it was called the Dark Ages. Yeah. It's not something we want. And
the Spanish Inquisition and all that, That's what comes out when there's religious police. It's like the Taliban, in Afghanistan and places today. You get people getting stoned in the middle of a soccer game at halftime, for a man not wearing a beard, or a woman without her hijab or something, breaking a religious law. Then they're stoned in a public square. That's the kind of stuff that Rushdoony was advocating, that gays and incorrigible teens and all that should be stoned. He was advocating an actual literal application of the Old Testament law for civil society. And that was the big thing. He said, we need to apply Old Testament law today. And what happened was his movement was too extreme. It was too objectionable. But they left that part of it behind, but they picked up the dominionist piece. They thought that's how we're going to take dominion. It's going to be a long-term strategy. So they left some of his more extreme stuff behind. But I don't think anyone's advocating that we stone gays. But then again, like you were talking about, Brentley, there's an massive anti-LGBTQ bias. So they're going to make it illegal. They're trying to make it illegal.
Yeah, they're doing this thing with the drag shows, and it's like I've been arguing with atheists about this shit. They're like, but they're dancing in front of kids, and I'm like, they're fully fucking clothed. They're fully clothed. Like, have you been to the beach in Florida? Like, fucking goddamn, what are you talking about?
No, yeah, that's true.
Like, how is it harmful? Like, tell me.
Well, I was mentioning one of the things on. They've added 2 more categories to Project Blitz. They've added 2 more bills as well. One of them is the 10 Commandments bill, public display of 10 Commandments. The other one is this library thing, and that's coming out of this Drag Queen Story Hour, and that's a reaction against that. They're saying we're going to give parents, Christian parents, or any parent for that matter, the right to sue a librarian or a public library board if they allow, objectionable material, part of which includes things like the Drag Queen Story Hour. So the Project Blitz is showing their anti-LGBTQ bias, as well as saying you have whatever gender you were assigned at birth. That is your gender. There's no trans rights. They're trying to take that away as well. So when you get up into like level 4 and 5 of Project Blitz, like I said, the early ones are like things like, we're just going to put "In God We Trust" on state license plates and police cars and put it in public. That's fairly non-controversial, although it would offend an atheist or a Muslim or a Jew perhaps. But when you get into those bills, when you're talking about anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ and they're trying to make it illegal, that's a whole different level.
Because they can all rally against that. The Muslims, the Hasidic Jews, all those people can all be like, totes about the hate towards that particular group of people. Yeah.
Yeah. I get sometimes I get the impression that, the only thing that seems to be able to stop Christianity, especially in the U.S. today, is the love of money. And it seems to me that at some point Christianity has merged from, it's a bit like going to McDonald's. That Ronald McDonald is not the CEO of McDonald's, and Jesus is a bit that figure. Jesus is Ronald McDonald.
What? Wait, hold on.
Hang on. You just blew my mind, man. What the hell, Kevin?
I just picture Ronald behind a desk, all pissed off, smoking a cigarette. Does the spinny chair thing?
No Santa Claus.
Put Mary McCheese on the phone.
Yeah, where's the Hamburglar?
He's the one that starts the riots.
I don't care what the Hamburglar says. Horse meat is cheaper than beef.
I'm just wondering, the people that are watching Blitz, are they actually true Jesus believers, or are they actually capitalist lovers that are using Christianity as a font?
As a front?
Yeah, or as a font to push their agenda, capitalist agenda. This is where I'm kind of concerned.
Like Helvetica.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a capitalistic thing. It's more of a religious thing. because this is what Fred Clarkson talks about when he writes on Project Blitz. He says, like I said before, it's a Christian nationalist, dominionist-driven agenda. That's what's really behind it. They're trying to pass laws that favor Christians, that favor Christianity, that favor the teaching. I mean, some of the other laws in Project Blitz, for example, are things like making the Bible, the reading of the Bible, an elective in public schools. Having prayer in public schools, those kind of things. Again, and they call it protecting religious liberty. And how they get away with it is they say, well, look, it's not just about Christianity. It's any religion. If you're a Muslim or a Jew or a Buddhist or whatever, you can come in the public school too. We're just trying to protect everyone here. That's what makes it non-controversial. That's how they get around it, see? So it's not necessarily about making money. It's about passing laws that favor Christianity, but they cloak it in religious liberty terms.
That's why Satanism is important.
Hold on.
Because they want to teach Satanism in school.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I could add to that, though, like if you ever attend like an evangelical or an extremely religious church, it is pounded into your brain on a regular basis that God's in control of everything.
Yep.
It's whatever happens, God's in control, and we should be like submitting to God's control, and God controls the church and everything else. But in reality, is God's not in control of the church. People are corruptible. Mm-hmm. People are fallible. And as a result, you'll see these people getting behind these Christian movements, thinking that they're doing God's work, when really all they're doing is they're pushing a bigoted agenda. They're harming people in the wake of their proselytizing, and and I don't think it has anything to do with capitalism. It has to do with just like groups of people wanting control, wanting the power, and knowing how to trigger people to be the dogs on the ground or the foot soldiers for them to get that power or theocratic control.
Yeah. Well, and we mentioned Christian nationalism. That's a major driver. We haven't talked about that. And that is one of the guys who's affiliated with Project Blitz is someone named David Barton. I don't know if you've come across him. He's out of Aledo, Texas. He runs an organization called Wall Builders, and he's on the board of this Project Blitz Prayer Caucus movement. So Barton's been a part of this from day one. Now, if you know anything about Barton, he goes around all over the country and he gives talks in churches and it's like everywhere. He's like the Where's Waldo. He's everywhere. And he's always talking about how America was a Christian nation. And that's his whole shtick. He quotes like all sorts of quotes from the founding fathers to prove, in air quotes, that America was a Christian nation. And his argument is we should become one again. And so things like abortion, homosexual, gay rights, same-sex marriage, and all those sins, they need to be eradicated for America to become a Christian nation again and God to start blessing the country. So that's why these guys are so passionate. Like you were saying, Troy, that's why they're so involved, even on a grassroots level, because they're being told in church, listen, America was a Christian nation. We've strayed from the path. We got to get back onto the path of righteousness. The way to do it is to pass these laws that are going to make this shit illegal. Yeah. And that's it. We're going to win, and God will start blessing us, and we'll become a Christian nation again. So that's a huge
just don't
driver.
Fact check the claim about America being a Christian nation. Because when you look at
David Barton.
If you look at the church, the role of the church in like colonial America, the church was an extension of the monarchy. And so when you when America rebelled against the king, it was a common trope for the other side to say they were also rebelling against God, because they were rebelling against the church also, because the king was God's man on earth. So it's that was the whole point of the separation of church and state in the beginning of America, because they saw how the church was used as an arm of an authoritarian regime to manipulate and goad and control the people into accepting like atrocious behavior and inequality. But that's been changed since. Like Christianity's got a facelift since then. But it's
this is why I need to jump in, because following the previous question I have, and we're all dancing around the question I want to ask here is, I guess maybe I didn't word it right the first time. The question I should re-ask is, how fanatical are these dominionists? I mean, how true to Christianity are they? Because I have a feeling that what they're doing is they're using Christianity as a veneer, but in reality, they're worshiping the Almighty Dollar, right? I think if if it came to a point where it was more profitable to accept the LGBTQ, they would, right? And especially when we're talking about an economy that's on a global scale. I mean, if the United States, for example, let's roll the dice and go 50, 100 years into the future, became a Christian theocracy, it would lose its world status. It would not be the superpower it is now. So I'm just wondering, how far these people do you think are willing to go with Christianity? Are they willing to be such a Christian, pious nation that they're willing to drop from number one position?
But I think they would probably counter argue and say, no, if Kevin, if we were a Christian nation, God would be blessing us to the point where we'd be a superpower again, and we would dominate the world. So we're not going to go backwards; we're going to go forward, because they'll go back. And this is how fucked up it is. There's an article on Wall Builder's website that's an elaborate defense of slavery, of Southern slave owning, and the argument is that he starts out with this argument and says, look, why, he says, America was a Christian nation. We know that, that's their presupposition. But how then could God bless America economically in the 18th and 19th centuries if slavery was such a sin? And then they'll turn around and say, well, it wasn't against the Bible. They have to defend slavery. They say, because it wasn't wrong, so that therefore we were a Christian nation. And that's why we were so blessed economically. I mean, we were a superpower, during the slave era. And so they'll say slavery wasn't wrong. The Bible condones slavery. Slavery is actually not that bad. The slaves had it pretty damn good. So that shows you how twisted their logic is when it comes to combining economy and this sort of Christian nation idea. They'll defend anything. They're that screwed up.
Yeah, dude. My family is like my on the one side is very Southern, right? And I descend from the people that had plantations and whatnot.
You guys are slave owners.
Yeah, so like I've always heard the arguments of, hey, they had it good, man. Like they were just, we treat them like, you see the rich people with the poodles. Okay, they were the poodle. And that was like, they that's the way they saw it, and it's like, and I kept hearing those arguments like all the time when I was a kid and growing up. And it was so weird when I finally, because I was like, there's, you're always taught these lies about like, hey, they're so, the other side, the black people are so powerful and everything. And so like the Zimmerman thing was what really messed me up, because like, I was like, no, man, he's totally going down. He's going to get murdered in prison. And then he got off. And I'm like, oh shit, that doesn't go with my narrative at all. That actually makes me look like completely wrong. Actually, that doesn't, it just fucked me up. And that's when I really started thinking about stuff. But wow, it's interesting.
When you look, if you look at their model is the Old Testament, they would say, look at the nation of Israel. If you read the Old Testament, every time they were, obeying God, that's when they were conquering the nations around them. And every time they slid off into sin, that was when the other nations came in and took them over and took them captive in slavery and all the rest of it. Then they would repent, and God would send a deliverer and deliver them from the nations around them, and they'd start being blessed again. And so the dominionist argument is that's why it's so important to be a Christian nation. We're not being blessed right now. We're sliding in the world economy because we're not a Christian nation anymore. So if we were, then God would bless us. So I think going back to Kevin's point, that's why they're so desperate to instill some sort of theocracy, because they say God's blessing includes economic benefits as well. It's not just spiritual blessings like revival. It's money.
But last time I checked, the United States still was the world economic superpower as we speak. I mean, how much more number one do you want to be at this point?
I mean, we're the richest in terms of like where people with money are, but that's it. They all have the people are the ones with the money, and they're here, that's it. Like the money isn't actually here. It's just the people who have it are here.
True. A very small percent. What is it? 1% owns 95% of the world's wealth. You got guys like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Elon Musk. These guys have more money than they could ever spend in a million lifetimes.
Yeah, we're starving people here, man. Like we
I'm so disappointed. Literally, none of these billionaires have decided to try to be Batman. I'm so disappointed, because if that was a billionaire, that's the first thing I'll try to be Batman.
Go beat up some mentally ill people. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Right now, come on, everybody wants a Batmobile. Let's face it.
Yeah,
they're too busy building rockets to go to space. I mean, that's the big thing, isn't it?
I know.
Rather than solving world hunger or making sure there's clean water for poor, it's they're building the rocket to go to space. I mean,
Let's just find another one. Can we just? Where's the next one?
Space Billionaire.
We fucked this one up. Can we get another one? Plan B.
I still think Jeff Bezos' penis rocket is very, very telling. So.
Hey, that was all physics, bro. Okay.
Yeah.
Physics or why it's shaped that way. I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't look like a flying dildo at all.
Not phallic at all.
Making connections. I don't know.
Been extremely.
But even the Amazon logo, I always thought that. Doesn't that look like it's a phallic symbol, isn't it? You ever seen that? I mean, one thing that struck me right off the bat.
I'm gonna feel dirty every time
there.
I pick up a package from now on.
No, I've ruined it. I've ruined it for you, Troy.
The smile?
Yeah.
The smile? I don't know.
No, it's a penis.
It's not a smile. It's a penis, man. I mean, you smile with the penis. You know, penises make people smile. I mean,
I don't know if I could smile with
in
a
general.
penis with my mouth. In my mouth. Never mind. I'm not going to.
Don't go there, man.
my co-hosts are not necessarily those of Ethic Valley subsidiaries.
Yeah.
But you've been extremely generous in your time, and we thank you, sir. But one last question I got to ask you here is, in light of people hearing this, some people are not aware of Project Blitz and what's going on. And what would you recommend, like the average layperson, do in light of that information?
Yes.
What do we do about it?
So I was just.
No.
Oh, he's cutting out.
So we can't do anything, y'all. That's it. That's what it is. There's
We're
nothing
doomed.
we can do.
Recommending there's
It's
a
over.
good site. It's called Blitz Watch.
Right now, there's a Christian somewhere. It's like, I was praying that the podcast would screw up.
No, they work at the British fucking internet place. We gotta turn this shit right off right now.
Oh, now
Unplug
Brent's
it.
going funny.
Oh, what?
No. He's
You're fine on our end.
Is Clint back?
no.
No.
Clint.
Fuck. All right.
Okay, we just got to kill 5 more minutes waiting for Clint to come back. And then so, live
Go be
TV. Do you want me to bring the chicken back in to crap over everything? Or
Right. Go be a patron to Clint's podcast, and then that's how you can make things better. Mindshift podcast. Yes. Go be a patron.
you know, first the tech center's financials crash, and now the internet.
There we go. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, there we go.
There he goes. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Oh,
All right.
perfect.
Cool.
Excellent.
Okay. Last question.
Let's try that again.
We'll cut all that out.
We'll cut all that out.
3, 2, 1.
Yes. Clint, you've been very generous with your time. And before the internet crashes again,
Yeah.
for the layperson, what should they do in light of all this information?
Okay.
Yeah, go to blitzwatch.org. If you look up on Google, do a search on Blitz, Project Blitz and Fred Clarkson. You'll find his work on religion dispatches. The biggest thing is there's a positive to the whole thing, and that is it shows that democracy can defeat these anti-democratic things. By shining a light on it, they've actually batted it back down. They forced them to go underground. They even had to change the name. It's not even called Project Blitz anymore. So they've changed the name. They've had to.
Almost.
He's cutting out, but the I'll fill in some time while we're waiting for him to buff. Is just go back to the story that I started out originally. Is what drove the fundamentalists out of our local school board was people getting out there and voting, because of the fact that even when people wanted one of the members gone, they just couldn't get enough people out to vote to go against all the people, all the churches that were voting for him to stay in. But eventually, you had enough people get fed up with the all the hate speech, and there was enough voters show up to get the fundamentalists off the board. So the biggest thing that people can do is like pay attention to local politics and make sure you vote.
Get involved. Yeah, get involved.
Yeah. Just get involved. Yeah. Do your research, get involved. This is a good show to be talking about this kind of stuff for sure. If it helps people, get educated on what's going on. It's not just Project Blitz. They're far from the only one who are trying to do stuff like this, passing legislation and advancing an agenda. It's just that with Trump out of office, they've kind of had to go underground now. But they're going to come back next election, hotter than ever. It depends on which candidate they get behind, whether it's going to be DeSantis or Trump, but they're going to line up behind one of those two guys for sure, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it's okay, y'all. Yeah. He can actually say, do your own research to us, because we actually understand how to do that. I guess it's all right. Yeah. It's not. I know a lot of people are like, oh, right. Yeah, okay, do your own. Fuck.
No, I won't be doing that.
Clint, thank you so much for being on the show. But before I let you go, of course, as usual, I got to have you say, hi, this is Dr. Clint Heacock, and I took a left in the valley.
Okay, hi, this is Dr. Clint Heacock, and I took a left at the valley.
Fantastic.